Doesn't the Transportation Secretary of the United States know it? Not so much focused on investors as to what is rattling them. Among those, those who are flying Delta, since we had this whole CrowdStrike issue, where of course we had a huge global IT failure. They're trying to dig out of that right now. But Secretary, they have a long way to go, I guess. How do you see it now? I know your department is looking into this, but what have you learned?
Yeah, we've opened an investigation into Delta. We're going to be gathering a lot of data, both from the airline and from passengers. Look, everybody saw the CrowdStrike problem on Friday affecting every part of the economy around the world, and that's certainly rippled across the airline sector. But every other airline got back on its feet within a day or two. Delta actually seemed to move in the opposite direction, which is why we are paying special attention really to two things. One, how did that breakdown happen? Why did they get worse while other airlines got better? And how do you get that many cancellations and delays? Over 6,000 last time I checked since this problem began. And then secondly, what is going on with your customer service? Obviously, things happen, a storm, an outage, some set of delays that mean you're going to be taking more calls. There's going to be more pressure on your customer service. But we've seen reports of people waiting 8 hours to get on the phone, talk to people who have waited in lines of more than 100 people being served by just a single agent at an airport, even using the chat function online, not getting a response at anything close to a respectable amount of time. So we need to understand how that happened, and we are investigating with an eye toward accountability over that breakdown, as we have done in other cases.
Secretary, I just wonder, it seems that these airlines seem to take turns being the focus horror du jour of the moment. Obviously, Delta now, that surprised a lot of people because up until now it had very high marks for customer service and efficiencies. But I can remember with Spirit and Southwest, what makes this happen where they have these rolling horror shows?
It seems like the causes differ from airline to airline. You mentioned that Southwest meltdown that had a lot to do with their particular systems. It was a common, kind of a similar pattern, though, right, where you had this big, epic winter storm. Every airline got knocked back, but the rest of them quickly got on their feet, except for one. I think this points to the continued need for there to be more resiliency in how airlines set themselves up, to have some kind of cushion and some kind of capacity to recover. Early indications are, in the case of Delta, and again, this is actually not totally different than Southwest. A lot of issues had to do with their crew system, the way that they move the right people to be in the right place. Look, we're not going to go around prescribing a business strategy or a tech strategy. What we do is we hold airlines accountable for results. We set a floor. We set a standard. We say whether it's customers being able to reach you or how you treat people when there's a delay or cancellation. You've got to meet this standard, and then you do what industry does best, which is figure out how. Clearly, they have not successfully done that in this case, which is one of the reasons why we're opening up this investigative action.
Other airlines have talked about, demand is very strong, but maybe not as strong as they thought and they planned for later this summer and into the fall, Secretary. I'm wondering if the great run on foreign travel and travel period is a reflection of things slowing down in the economy and people sort of crimp for funds. Now, I know you're the transportation department head, so this maybe goes a little outside your area, but that is a factor in some of this, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're still seeing extraordinary volumes, very close to breaking another all-time record. I'm looking at that 3 million mark, which is, I think right now, the most that TSA has ever screened in a day is something like 2.98, and it happened recently. It seems like every holiday we've tracked, last Thanksgiving, some of these summer holidays, has seen the most demand ever. So still very robust, but we may see some settling. Even now, I think the balance of business and leisure travel has not fully found whatever its future equilibrium is going to be post-COVID. And you may see some settling, even though overall the picture continues to be one of really robust demand growth. I'll also say just, from an infrastructure side, our projections as we're getting ready to fund airports that are expanding their concourses or growing is that you are over the medium and long term going to continue to see really major increases in the number of passengers flying. But, that's not to say that there won't be ups and downs in business cycles. Of course, from a departmental perspective, we're mainly concerned with making sure that the safety is there on the FAA side of the house, and then making sure that customer protection is there that we do on the other parts of the DOT side of the house.
Sir, have you had a chance to talk to President Biden about all of this? Say, here's what we're doing with Delta. Here's what's going on. Obviously, a lot of attention to the president's address to the nation tonight. Anything at all?
I haven't talked to him about the Delta issue specifically, but I'm sure that the next time I see him, it'll be on his mind because I remember during the Southwest Airlines issue, him having a lot of questions about that too. And of course, I'm looking forward to tonight's address, the first time that America really gets a chance to see and hear from him after he made this extraordinary and I know very difficult and selfless choice over the weekend. And of course, on the government side of things, I'm looking forward to a call to action for us to continue working. One of the messages I've had within this department is, whether we're talking about political appointees or the thousands of career staff here, is, all those things go on the political side, but we've got a job to do. And this administration, we're proud of everything we've done. We're pushing hard on a lot of things, whether it's, announcements about bridges and port investments like I was doing in Long Beach the other day, or, the regulatory work we're doing like this Delta investigation. We've got to keep up the pace, sprint through the tape. There are 6 more months in this term of this administration. And I imagine what we'll see from the president is a determination to make the most of every single day of that term.
In your dealings with him, Secretary, did you ever pick up on some of this stuff that showed a cognitive decline? A lot of people are saying that this was secreted from the American people and others. What do you think? No,
and I've never, I've never been somebody to say he's not 10 years older than he was 10 years ago. But anytime I've needed something from him, a decision, guidance, direction, I've been able to count on that leadership. I'd say the last time that I was very kind of closely day-to-day engaging with him with the Oval Office was during the Baltimore bridge collapse and the ship strike that happened there. And I can tell you, all through that process, he was detail-oriented and very much directing the whole of government response, our department, but a lot of others too.
Because some of your colleagues, largely on the other side of the aisle, sir, have been saying, well, if you're not going to be, the Democratic nominee, you are sticking around through next January, and you shouldn't. If something's wrong, you should step down as president. What did you think of that?
Yeah, choosing not to campaign and participate in a campaign is a totally different choice. And actually, one of the things he has emphasized already is that part of what he's doing is leaving the campaigns and politics aside and concentrating on the presidency, where there's so much more that he wants to achieve in these remaining months. There have been, it's very rare, but there have been times when sitting presidents have decided not to run again. To my knowledge, at least in modern times, they've all still, of course, finished out their terms.
They have indeed, and sometimes it's not good for the party in the November election. They tend to lose, but we'll see what happens here. And I didn't want to and don't want to go into politics, sir, but because of the things that JD Vance seemed to be saying about you, I wanted to see if you could react to that, referring to childish couples, or childless, I apologize, in the Democratic Party, the powers that be. He had made similar remarks about Kamala Harris. He seemed to be referencing you. What did you think of that?
I just don't know what kind of guy goes around commenting on other people's families and family structures. When he said that, we were in the middle of an adoption journey, which has since led to us having this incredible change in our lives of raising a son and a daughter, these beautiful twins. When he said that, that hadn't happened yet, but we'd already been through some tough reversals in that adoption journey. And, I don't know. I just don't know why you would bring that into it. If we have a policy disagreement, let's talk about the policy disagreement. But going after people's kids or attacking people for how their family is set up, this is a country where I would like to think that, and never mind campaigns and politics, I'm just saying as people and as policymakers who sometimes disagree, we can all lay off each other's families.
But he didn't. When it came to the vice president, referred to her as a childless cat lady. What did you think of that?
Yeah, again, I just think that's beneath the dignity of anybody who seeks to present themselves as a U.S. senator or any kind of leader in this country. And I'm not here to talk about campaigns and elections, so I'll just leave it at that. I think it speaks for itself. All
right, so I kind of see where I'm going with this, but your name has been mentioned on a short list of those she might consider for vice president. So I'm going to try to ask this in a weird way. Could the Transportation Department afford to lose you if you joined a Kamala Harris ticket?
I admire the creativity of how you tried to get me into this, but I just, I just can't talk about campaigns and elections here. What I will say is, as a government matter, I'm proud of the work of the department, and I'm proud to work with the leadership of the president and the vice president.
One curious question I have, and you very wisely avoided that one, but when you fly, Secretary, I know you fly commercial a lot, and obviously you're a recognized and recognizable face. So when they see you, are they frantic? Is the airline in question, the pilots, the flight attendants, they go, oh my God, we better not screw up? Or people on the plane, if there's a delay, start, railing at you?
I have great conversations with passengers, with pilots, with flight attendants. I like to, go back and fetch a cup of coffee and ask flight attendants how things are going for them. And yeah, of course, as you might imagine, passengers very naturally share their experiences, sometimes a lot of questions too. I have had some people occasionally take a look at me and say, oh, good, I know our flight's going to be on time. And unfortunately, the reality is, a flight is no more or less likely to be delayed if I'm sitting on it. But look, part of a job like this is it's important to eat what you cook. And so when I'm doing our work as an airline regulator, of course, I think about my experience as a passenger and everything I hear from other passengers, whether they're sitting next to me on a plane or people passing notes. You wouldn't believe people have passed me notes on everything from napkins to sick bags, telling me their thoughts. And I try to take that in.
You should just see my emails, Secretary. Very good having you on. Thank you very much.